My name is Jon Kopp. I'm the Tupper Lake Historian, but in a past life, I used to be a wildlife technician for the Department of Environmental Conservation, which I started in 1972. So this story I'm going to tell you now is I don't think I can get in any trouble for it anymore. It's been about 35 years, so here we go. But at that time, I started working at the fish hatchery, and after 3 years, I took a lateral transfer to the Bureau of Wildlife. And over the years, I worked on all sorts of different projects. I banded ducks. I managed wildlife management areas. I worked with white-tailed deer. But in the earlier years, the conservation department wanted to get involved in restoring animals that had been extirpated from the Adirondacks. So this story is about peregrine falcons. Um, and basically, what they did, there was no peregrine falcons in the Adirondacks this time. This is probably in the early 1980s. And Cornell University partnered with the state, and they would hatch these peregrine falcons that they got probably from Canada or somewhere. And they would get to a certain size when they would start to put their down on, and they would bring them to the Adirondacks. And the idea, we would build hack boxes on top of huge cliffs in the Adirondacks. We would put the birds in there, and then we eventually the birds would fledge. So these hack boxes are probably pretty good size, maybe about 4 feet high, 4 feet, and they have bars in front of the boxes, so the birds couldn't just jump off the cliff. Finding the cliffs was hard enough as it is, because when you're hacking peregrine falcons, you need to have a very sheer cliff, and it has to be very, very high up. And there's not too many mountains in the Adirondacks that really have that type of huge cliff. You can't have a slant. You have to have a very sheer cliff. So there's a few. There's one over in Hurricane. If you guys go from Keene over to Elizabethtown, you'll know that big cliff in Hurricane Mountain. But this story is about Silver Lake Mountain. I don't know if anybody's been over to Silver Lake Mountain. It's in Black Brook, and you could see this sheer cliff from the edge of a farmer's field. Well, back in those days, we had to carry and make the boxes, and we had to carry them all the way up to the top of the cliff. So we had to bushwhack through the trail. There's no trail going up to Silver Lake Mountain. So we go through a farm field, and we'd have to climb this rubble and everything to get to the top. And we had to carry all the material to build the hack boxes and all the things that we needed to do to build to raise these peregrines. So we carry them up there. We build the boxes. They hired technicians to watch the birds. They would build these big, long plastic tubes. And the idea was, when you're raising these birds, you did not want them to imprint on humans. So you couldn't hand feed the birds. Everything had to be done through tubes. And we used to actually trap pigeons in Saranac Lake, and we'd have to kill the pigeons, and we'd shove them through tubes, and then we learned to after a while we learned that it was a lot easier just buy frozen little chickens, I mean, we just put them down the tube, so there's a whole story about how do you kill a pigeon I'm just not going to get into, but but anyway, this is what we did. So we had to build the box, and we had to put the bars in and everything. They hired temporary technicians, and all through the summer the technicians would watch these birds, and they would record the information, and they would feed them. And then when the birds got large enough, when they got their feathers, they would just pull the bars, and then the birds would sit there and they would fledge. And then the technicians would watch them. Well, after a while, the birds would leave the roost, and the technicians would all go. There was two of us working in D.C. right at that time, on the peregrine falcon program. One was Ed Grant. Some of you might know he lives in Saranac Lake, and he used to run the fish hatchery for years. But at that time, Ed was a temporary technician to work with me in the Bureau of Wildlife. So my boss, Bob Minsterman, I don't know if anybody knows Bob, but he calls Eddie and I, and he says, "You guys go up there, and you got to tear down that hack box, and you can take all that stuff down and tear it down." And I said, "Well, geez, and Bob," I said, "it's all big plywood." I said, "Have you ever gone up to the side of that thing?" And I didn't want to, we didn't want to tear that thing and go up and down. So, okay, I guess we got to do it. So anyway, we go up there and we're looking at we get climb up there and here it is, the hack box is there and stuff like that. And I said, turned to Ed and I said, you know, Ed, I said, I don't, do we really have to get these boxes and bring them down? I mean, we're going to kill ourselves bringing that stuff down. I said, you know, why don't we just kick the box off the cliff? Just kick it off the cliff, right? So he said, geez, I don't think we better do that, John. And I'm probably getting all sorts of trouble. I said, listen, you just kick it off. It'll all smash in the bottom. We'll just walk in and carry right out. He says, okay. So I went up there and I took my leg and I kicked the box right off the cliff. Now, you got to see, this is a high cliff. We're talking hundreds of feet. And below the cliff, there's these huge pine trees that are, you know. So anyway, we kicked it off, and we're watching the box, and the box going down, hits the pine, clicks over this way, and clicks in another one, and all of a sudden, it stops. And Eddie and I looking at it, what do we do now? So it's like, what are we going to do? I said, well, I can't climb the pine tree and get it. And we, you know, so he said, oh, we're going to get in trouble. And I said, let's think about this, Ed, before we go back in. I don't want to get in trouble. So anyway, we go back down. We get back into the office, you know, and Bob comes out of the office. He says, you guys get rid of that hack box? Yep, all gone. Never had to take care of it. So, and meanwhile, you know, Bob thinks it's all gone. And Eddie said, geez, what if they go up there? You know, they're going to go up there looking for those, when the birders go up there and look at all those peregrines, they're going to see that box in the tree. I said, don't worry about it. Not a problem. Says, it's okay. So the following year, other people go up there and birders and technicians from DEC, they would go up to the site. And you're about quite a ways away from the cliff, from where they would watch to look for peregrines, and they would sit there with the binoculars, and they'd say, "Geez, look at that!" And they'd look at the pine tree, and they'd see this freaking box in the pine tree, and they'd say, "What the heck is that box in the?" I said, "Well, you know these kids and the way they like to build tree houses." So there you go.